That's fine.
We miss you too, man. I like your shirt.
Thanks.
Alrighty.
Do you want to look at us?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, they can hear you.
Great reality. Look at yourself.
Oh God, are we big?
Oh,
Alrighty. So we don't keep them glued to their computer for too long. We'll go ahead and start this panel off, which, by the way, is the Critical Role panel. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. We're a bunch of nerdy-ass voice actors that play Dungeons and Dragons. We have, of course, the delightful and gorgeous Marisha Ray. Joining us via satellite, we have the awesome, glorious, beautiful Laura Bailey. Then we have the luxurious, beautiful, gorgeous Travis Willingham. Yeah, you can look at the audience. Much better.
Yeah. I love staring at you too.
There you go.
Sure.
There you go. So yes, welcome. I'm Matt. I do a thing. So to begin this panel, curious, how many here have not watched Critical Role? Oh, you're gonna be real confused. Perfect.
So confused. So confused.
Hopefully, the person dressed as Scanlan is not the confused person.
Confused at this point.
Maybe this is true. I would ask also, please, any questions or statements you have, no spoilers. Many people are at different places in the storyline, so be careful about things you ask or say to make sure as to not spoil it for anybody. Thank you.
whatever. All the characters are dead.
Damn it, Travis. So yeah, that being the case, I would say first and foremost, if you have any burning questions for our fantastic dynamic duo over in Los Angeles right now, go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll go ahead and call it right there in the front row.
We just started a new campaign, and we're doing evil sky pirates and whatnot. And previous campaign, you're kind of on the good side. I decided to do chaotic neutral. What's some good tips to go in on that? Yeah.
Tips for being chaotic neutral?
Yeah.
Yeah, Travis, take it away.
I love chaotic neutral. It's like, for me, it is the class that lets you be your most impulsive.
Sorry, I was just thinking about a light. That's all. Go.
No, yeah, I love chaotic neutral because you get to be impulsive, and there's not a lot of things that fall outside of your alignment as long as it makes some sort of rational or impulsive sense for your character. I love chaotic neutral, and if you ever feel like you need to start doing things along a more good alignment or evil alignment, I'm sure you can change as you go along, but damn, chaotic neutral is the way to start, believe you me.
Good question. Laura, do you have anything to add since you had a brief foray with chaotic neutral?
Am I not still chaotic neutral?
I mean, you made it back to chaotic good, yeah.
Spoilers. Well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like even when she was chaotic neutral, Vex wanted to be good. So I feel like I'm not really smart. Don't show everybody. I just ate a banana.
Congratulations. Thank you, good question. Next question, let's go over, you, sir, the glasses in the back there. Yeah. Yes, those glasses.
Stand up so the people on the other end of the world can see you.
Oh, hi.
For this could be extended to all of you. What do you find is the greatest challenge in playing your characters? And for you, Matt, what do you find most challenging about NPCs?
Okay, so what do you find most challenging about playing your characters? Laura, Travis, you guys first.
You go first.
Me first. I always find it hard to play. It's not hard. It's actually gotten easier to play a character with low intelligence. It's kind of. It's the fun part about playing Grog. It's like taking all of the filters out of your brain and just reacting with the first thing that happens to pop in there, as long as it doesn't like offend or piss anybody off. But even then, sometimes you do it. That could be the hardest thing. It's like remembering that I can't read or that I don't know what numbers and letters are, things like that. How about you, Huber?
Oh man, I guess the hardest part is like actually sounding like a badass. Like I really, really want Vex to be like super cool, and it's like not what.
She's super
No.
cool. Keelan thinks she's super cool.
Thanks, Kaylin.
Yeah, man. I
One-liners.
think you're awesome.
Maybe not the best
Try
looking
not to
stuff.
trip over your words when you're, trying to sound intelligent also, like at the same time, because you don't know what you're about to say, so.
Yeah, that's tough. That's why we all end up inevitably saying something stupid when you're trying to sound intelligent at least once. Like you repeat words.
That's half of Dungeons and Dragons, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, kind of a similar way, just that kind of a natural impulse, because I'm radically different from Keyless. I probably, Travis and I kind of have that same kind of let's just fuck shit up kind of mentality. So I have to like stop myself sometimes and be like, no, Keyless wouldn't do that. She'd be a good person. So, yeah.
I never had that problem.
Yeah. Next character, not gonna be good. Nope. Tired of this moral compass shit.
For my part, I mean, the hardest part of NPCing is one, keeping them all straight in your mind at all times, because there's a lot of characters to keep track of, so extensive notes help. And weirdly, a number of communities online have been keeping notes of the NPCs, so it's nice to have a community of people to help me. Weirdly. Someone sent me a link where it's like, yeah, we've cataloged all of your NPCs and all their information about them in this Excel document. I'm like, send me the link, please. And it's been very helpful. But yeah, that's one of the hardest parts. The other part is making sure that you don't end up putting the players in a situation often where they let the NPCs talk to each other too much. I know. Well, no, it's a pain in the ass for me. Because in part of running a game is your players are the heroes, and while they're not going to be the forefront of every single story, you want to make sure that they're still central to it. And if you're not careful, and you create characters that are more powerful and capable and more involved in the story than your party, you might end up in a situation where the players go, oh, well, let those guys take care of it. And then all of a sudden, you've become the hero of your own game, which can be very boring for the rest of the players. So yeah, make sure that you give agency enough to the players where you're not stuck having to NPC the hero. Good question. Next up, we'll choose this one.
Let's do you in the back with the Gilmore shirt on? Yeah, you. Yeah.
I was just wondering, you guys started doing Pathfinder and you switched for the show. Do you guys prefer doing Pathfinder, or do you like the switch to 5th edition?
Did you guys hear that? The question is, do we prefer?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I realize it's been so long. I think I prefer 5th edition. But there were parts of Pathfinder that were good for like more specific customizations.
Yeah, I think it was just the actual switch over was the hard part, because I don't like change very much, and yeah, so it was just hard getting used to and hard going, wait a minute, I feel like if I had started in 5th edition, I might not have gone to Ranger, even though I love animals and pets and stuff.
Hi, Charlie. Charlie is the best. The best animal companion you could ever have.
Charlie, the trinket is Charlie's character.
Yeah, I mean, they're both great systems. I feel when you have a very large party, like we have, 5th edition definitely is much more functional. Pathfinder is great if you like systems that are very customizable and you can very minutely tweak the kind of character you want to create. However, it does lend itself to a lot of floating esoteric math and a lot of modifiers from different sources. That can get very difficult with larger parties. I found 5th edition is a little easier to weave the narrative into the combat and simplify some of those mechanics to make it a little better for a larger scheme like that. I prefer 5th edition over the both, but only just barely, because I still played Pathfinder in 3.5 for many years, and I love the system a lot. But for my narrative preference, I'm a much more narrative-based player than like a combat system mechanic-based player. If I had to compare the two, I think 5th edition is more my speed.
Yeah, 5th edition brought in the backgrounds, which I thought was really cool and interesting, especially for people who aren't as readily familiar with jumping in and role-playing and coming up with a fully fleshed out backstory for someone. So I think that was really cool to help people get inspired in that way that they kind of brought into 5th edition.
Totally.
What these guys said.
Yeah, good question. Next up, Travis, you want to pick one?
Oh yeah, one with the hand.
I'll take that as, well, we have
I feel like I can point to one, but you won't know who I'm pointing to.
That's fine.
Point, wait.
Look at the point of the
Oh,
camera.
right. What's that?
You're pointing at us.
And then there's a guy in the middle that's holding his hand up. Hold up like 2 fingers if you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, all right. Gentlemen, right there with the glasses and the 2 fingers up. Yes, you. Laura Bailey just picked you from Los Angeles.
Sure.
I was just curious, what positive changes other than being able to play every week has bringing your home game to the internet given you?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't hear what he said.
He said, well, what other positive changes has putting our game on the internet given us outside of being able to play more often?
I get more dice.
She's not kidding. It's a problem. It's a problem. It's like not being able to turn away the animals that come up to your house who have like 300 pets. I like it because we actually know we semi-know what we're doing. We played so few and far between before that I would have to ask Matt the same 900 questions each time we played. And he was like, come on, man, you gotta know your stuff. So doing it each week, there's less of a chance of that happening. We still have no idea what we're doing at all.
Yeah.
But there's just a little bit more knowledge there.
That's true. I think largely the most positive thing that's come out of doing this is the community that's stemmed out of it. Like our game is still our game and we enjoy it thoroughly, and it's still something that we as friends love to do together now on a weekly basis. But the community that's rallied around this is not only so supportive and so inclusive, but it's inspired so many other people to start their own game who wouldn't have otherwise. And I love how many people that come up to us or send us tweets and are like, this is a picture of our game group now that meets because we met as fans of the show, and here's our adventure and our characters. And it's this very proud Papa feel that we have, that all these other people are creating their own stories together. Because really, that's the great thing about this type of entertainment is, unlike a film or a television series, this you can watch and then be inspired and have the exact similar but totally unique experience yourself with your friends at home.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of took mine.
Sorry.
Yeah, each game that we see that someone's like, we're playing for the first time because of you guys. It's like this little victory. And I mean, it's so overwhelming every time. Like, there's a reason why Laura and I cry every time at Christmas. Because it's overwhelming. Because you get all these like letters about people saying that they helped us.
You get all the dice.
All the dice.
Please tell me he's gone to get it. Yes. We get to see the collection.
Is this the...
I have to show up its art. Can you see it? Sorry.
That was awesome. All right, next question. Travis, you pick this one.
Oh, I picked this one. The guy that's closest to the middle of the row, like along the aisle, he's got a black wristwatch, or he's doing
Yeah,
two
yeah,
things.
yeah.
There you go.
What's the most surprising thing you learned about yourself from playing your characters?
Ooh, what's the most surprising thing you learned about yourself playing your characters? Rich, you go first.
I honestly believe that playing Keyleth for like 4 or 5 years now, how long, I don't know, however long we've been doing this, almost 5 years, has kind of made me a more empathetic and better person. I don't know if I was someone who inherently tried to think about other people first before Keyleth, and now she's kind of putting myself in her shoes. I genuinely think you always learn more when you walk a mile in someone else's shoes type of thing. You get that perspective. So I think kind of just role playing someone who's just trying to do the best, the most beneficial, good, positive choice every time, even though it might not be one, is interesting. Yeah.
Good answer.
Thank you.
Your kingdom is showing.
Thank you. Sorry, I dropped it on the floor.
No, you go first. I want an answer.
I love chaotic storytelling. One of the first things that Matt ever told us as a DM was like, don't play it safe. Safe is boring. And I love it when shit goes wrong. I really, really love it when things go wrong and we panic and we try and make the best of the shit situation. Like that's my favorite.
What was the question?
Something about what are we most surprised to learn about ourselves from playing, and maybe that just means I'm an asshole, but that's what I
You're very resourceful, Travis. You're probably our best strategist. You just unfortunately play a stupid character.
I like to think about you street smart, just not book smart.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
That's the difference between wisdom and intelligence. You can be a very insightful and naturally receptive person to the world around you, and still not know anything about it.
His wisdom's low too, though.
Well, it's higher than average. It's like a 12, I think.
Yeah, it's something like that.
It's better than 6.
Yeah. How about you, Laura?
I think I've learned that I make a lot of weird expressions, and I hadn't really noticed it until we started filming the show, and then I went back and watched it, and I was so embarrassed the first couple episodes.
And you have a problem with dice.
I think my answer is the same as Laura's. I, on a weekly basis, have the most delightful and attractive freeze frames sent to me. It's been great. It's been great. It has perpetually stomped any semblance of an ego I could have possibly mustered. It's kept me a very humble person. Oh yeah, no. It never goes away, guys. It never goes away. It's always there. There's an entire Tumblr that's just post that picture every day.
Dude, that means you made it. That's like the
Made what?
Dude, you're not like web famous until you're like Sad Keanu. Or like that Facebook that just posts the same picture of Tobey Maguire crying every day. Like, that's awesome.
You know what? The fact that I can exist somewhere between those two makes me happy. I'm not nowhere near as cool as Sad Keanu, but I'm so much better than Sad Tobey Maguire. Okay, good. Awesome. Next question. Let's see. Let's get some love to the back. To the giant cat paw over there.
What are your favorite and preferred classes and races?
Favorite classes and races? Half-elf druid bitches! Half-elves!
No, I don't know. I have been like a half-elf and a druid for a very long time, so like, it's hard to say what's gonna be more my favorite. Dwarves are pretty dope.
Yeah, for me, dwarves are definitely my favorite race. I think they're largely... Yeah, the awkward Swedish brain name is dwarves are my favorite. Dwarves definitely
works.
That works?
Yeah.
That works.
That works.
What about your class? What is your favorite class?
No.
I like tieflings a lot. I don't know if I want to say it because like I might want to be them if Vex dies or ends up just leaving for no reason.
Is that your
That was pretty slick. Oh man, classes wise? Oh man. I tend to lean towards magic casters, so I like the options of spell use, even though it can be a little overwhelming at times. And I tend to lean towards cleric because they're also a large cleric or bard. Both underappreciated for a long time across the board. Bards have definitely come up into their own in the new edition, I think. 5e has made bards pretty damn powerful, which I like. And I think clerics as a support class still don't get the love and for how necessary they are for a good functional party.
Oh, we know.
At large.
No. Bards are just so intimidating.
What?
Like I don't know how to handle it. It's
Oh, to play.
To play, it would be so intimidating to play a bard to like have to like come up with songs and stuff all the time.
We don't have to come up with songs, that's just Sam being an asshole. It's
The
like,
bar is so high now.
well, the bard is so high. Oh. And panel's over, guys, thanks for coming. But like, because Scanlan is a musician bard, but there are different types of bards. You could be just a storytelling bard. You could be an inspirational, a leader, like a military leader who inspires through phrases. There's different ways you can do it. You can get great inspiration die by just standing at the front lines of an army and giving your Aragorn speech, but it is not that day, and everyone goes, yeah, I take my D12.
What paladins do? Don't they have like inspiration stuff like that? Or am I making shit up?
Yeah, don't they do like a leader thing? But paladins have like a thing
Well,
that they're like, rally, rabble.
Yeah, just like there's a rally thing. Or
Yeah.
No. Yeah, they have auras. They have auras that can help people that are nearby, which is their presence is
Oh,
helpful.
I'm thinking of Dragon Age.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. There is actually a feat called Inspiring Leader where you get to do that no matter what class you are, which is pretty fun.
Oh.
But yeah. Anyway.
Don't like Warcraft paladins kind of have the same thing too, where they can be like, ah! What's that called?
An aura.
Diablo.
An aura.
That's Diablo.
Oh, it's Diablo.
Diablo gets that.
You know what? I can't keep all my paladins straight, you guys.
Awesome. Next question. Let's.
Whoa.
Yeah, here, Mercer, you pick this one.
Let's go. You right in front in the duck hat. Yeah.
Since they're expressing interest in changing characters or dying off, if one of them wanted to come as a chaotic evil, would you allow it in your campaign?
Oh, I'd allow it.
Even though it's only a singular?
If a character wanted to come back as chaotic evil, it's definitely allowed, but there would be a very real conversation of understanding that introducing a chaotic evil into a largely neutral to good campaign, there's a high probability that if you're not very careful, you're gonna wind up dead. It depends. You might take a few party members out, but if you're one evil guy in a group of like 6 to 7 good people, you're probably gonna die.
You have to be really clever.
Yeah, but
really smart.
evil characters, especially lawful evil, understand the necessity of allies, and if you keep that under wraps, and the party doesn't know you're evil, and you coordinate well and manipulate to your. That can totally It's a difficult thing, but it can be done.
Trackpad.
Perfect. All right, let's go next question. Let's go over here on the far side.
We'll do one more question, and then we'll let you guys get to the panel, so you're not slogging us along.
Okay, well then, do you have a question for Laura and Travis?
Any big questions for Laura? She has ones.
Okay, we'll get to you after this. Yeah. What's your question for Laura and Travis before they go?
Alright, so I know Laura's got a thing for dice. So does my other half, big time. Travis, how do you deal with it? Because he drives me crazy.
I just, every session, steal one dice. It's like this slow bleed the slow drain of dice?
No, he doesn't because he's not allowed to touch my dice.
And she buys more to replace them.
That's true. It's kind of like plucking your eyebrow hair, right? You pluck one and two more spring up that are gnarly.
I don't have as many dice as Will Beaton. When I went over to Will's house, he literally has barrels of dice.
Oh, what? Are you serious?
Oh, I'm serious. That's the little pink like you guys know what it looks like. I have a pink glittery one that I took from his pile because I was like, ooh, and I took it and he said, yeah, take it. I have barrels of dice, and it always rolls terribly.
I'm gonna say, like, what happened? Is he hoarding the dice because he wants them, or because that's how he can keep them from actually being out in the open? He's trying to protect the rest of the world from the dice he's touched.
He's swallowing sin of the dice.
You know, Will, the sin eater, the sin swallower Wheaton. You're all dirty people. Guys, you have anything else? Any last parting bits you want to say before we let you go?
No.
Yes.
What?
Yes, we love you guys, and we're so sorry that our flight got canceled.
Man, weather is stupid, y'all.
Travis, you're missing the beer.
Oh.
Son of a bitch. I appreciate the beer. We really wish we could have been there to see you guys. We were looking forward to it for a long time. It sucks that Matt and Marisha had to bribe the airlines to let their plane take off.
Because Druids have control weather.
Yeah, exactly. I can control weather.
Now it all makes sense. All right, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time. We'll take it from here. Have a wonderful night. Alrighty.
Oh, I love those guys. They're great.
All right, now that they're gone.
Oh, hi! I know, how are you?
Sorry, just have to give a little love to these guys.
Your shirt is badass. Can we talk for a second about, you look like you're just ready to adventure right now. Like your armor is ready to be thrown on. How are you?
Sorry.
Yeah. This is like I love it. This is like the con where people just like come in and they're like, hey guys, here's not about this on your panel.
Travis
No, it's
Laura
good.
too, oh my god.
You just missed them via
I
Skype.
saw them on the screen, like, Travis! Laura, it's me! It's me!
We gotta go now. Bye. See you, buddy. We'll see you around.
See you later, Vic.
Bye, man.
Bye,
That shirt is at least AC-12, I'm pretty sure.
Definitely. It's like,
Which means he has a low armor class, he's gonna die. That was weird. Oh, man. All right, so continuing with our panel.
I smell like him now. All right, next question. Let's see. Yeah, you had one, right?
Yeah.
You were gonna go next.
Yes. So we're in a couple of D&D campaigns right now. We're actually in two.
Okay.
Yes.
One is more just a straight dungeon crawl campaign.
Mhm.
Another one's a really silly one where it's just goofing off nonstop.
Love it. Gotta
But
have those.
I want to DM another campaign based on your book that's going to be coming out. But I want it to be a more story-driven one, like a more RP-based one. Do you have any tips for trying to steer the players towards that?
Yes. If you want your campaign to be a little more story, narrative, role-playing focused, the first step is talking to the party about that. You want to talk to the players and be like, hey guys, I would like this game to be more role-play heavy. are you all cool with that? Because you can't force the players to play a way if they don't want to play that way, you know. And if you want to run a game like that, and the players don't, then maybe you need to find other players for that particular campaign. Otherwise, you're just going to end up pissing each other off, or you know, one side's going to be unhappy with it. So talk to them, and if they're all up for the challenge, then discuss how you plan to do so. And ways you can do that is one, have each person develop a stronger backstory for their character that you can either incorporate into the narrative, or at least they have a strong idea of where their character choices would come from. And a fun way to do that is to challenge them to make a character that is drastically different from themselves. Usually when you start playing a game, it's instinctual to make a character that's similar to you, because it's what you understand the best. And it's a good introduction to a role-playing game experience, because a lot of your decisions are the kind of decisions you would make. But a fun challenge to make a character that is very different. Like Marisha, making Keyleth was a kind of a ballsy move, very different from you, but it allows you that
I
perspective.
thought it was going to be a one-shot. It was not supposed to last for 5 years.
It's very true.
I've never played like good, insecure people. I should do that.
Like just for one session.
Just once.
Yeah. I recommend having that conversation with people, and then the background helps them kind of decide where they come from for their character and their choices. And engaging people on a roleplay standpoint, a lot of it is on the burden of the GM to directly engage with them as NPCs. There's a difference between looking at a paper and being, as you enter the bar, the bartender says, "Hi, would you like a drink? So do you guys want to buy drinks?" And the difference going, you know, as you enter the bar, the bartender spins his head towards you, his eyes meet yours, and "You! Come, sit down at the table! Now, can I get you a drink?" The player almost has no choice, necessarily, except to answer them as a conversation. And if they go, well, I tell them, perhaps yes, we'll buy drinks. Like, okay, well then, tell me as your character. Like, then, yes, we'd be happy to sit down and buy drinks. And that little moment has already engaged them a little bit beyond their comfort zone. And those little moments, just over time, helps the players be more comfortable to play in that space. And it is uncomfortable for a lot of people at first, so you have to be patient. Be patient with them and try your best to pull them in. And at the end of a session, have a little kind of post-mortem and ask, like, what you like about it, what you didn't like. Next time, we'll try a little more of this. And so, yeah, maybe baby steps, because for some people, it's not a very comfortable space to be. But if they're willing to try, then just keep pushing ever so slowly in that direction, and over time, you'll eventually get to a better role-playing story.
Yeah, and I always want to reiterate that when we first started our game, because we'd already been playing for about 2 years before we turned the camera on, and our first game was just that. It was silly, it was crazy, and I remember Laura took to it. She had never played before. She took to it like a fish to water. She gets in and she's like, "All right, lads, come on, let's get in here. Let's go kill something." And I remember like Liam and Travis being like, "What is going on? Why are they talking to me?" And I remember Travis being like, "You have an accent? Do I have to have a British accent? Does everyone have to have a British accent?" He was like, "What are the rules? I don't know." You know, and Vax and Grog, Vax was such an inherent prankster, and on it we're kind of like seeing that come out of Vax again now, but like in our early days, it was just like how Vax can prank everyone else in the game. So it was way more, you know, jovial. We didn't have our first serious like heavy moment when people started like tears were shed was when Pike died for the first time. And that, you know, it was before stream, and that was when we started getting a little bit more serious. But I mean, we didn't have a lot of like the heavy back and forth dialogue, deep, intense, character-driven exploration as much, especially in that first year. You know, it was very, very jovial, very light. And we were actors, and they were still like, "What, you want me to? Oh, all right, yes, bartender."
Yeah.
So
it takes a little time.
It takes time. Yeah.
And yeah, the book comes out around Gen Con, so I hope you like it.
We've been working really hard on you guys. It's going to be a really good book.
It goes into a kind of a Cimmerian like history of creation, like creation myth of Exandria. It goes into the immediate history of Tal'Dorei post the divergence, or the calamity. And then it goes into all the geography and all the various locations and information about them. It has like story hooks that you can use in your campaign for a lot of the locations there. I have a bunch of additional vestiges in the book as well. You can incorporate
You
your
have like
campaign.
backgrounds.
I have some new backgrounds that are
classes.
specific. I have some new.
Ashari is a
class
background. We made
Nice.
Ashari a background.
Yeah, there's a misconception that the Ashari are all druids. They're not. They're an entire people.
They're a
of different-
tribe,
They're a
yeah.
tribe. The druids tend to be the top of the hierarchy because of their nature-based power, but there are people that are just farmers, Ashari. So they're just warriors and protectors. And so the Ashari as a background can be applied to any class, really. If you're pretty creative, you come up with an Ashari warlock, but it's possible. So I have new backgrounds based on different locations and being a member of the class if you wanted to and stuff like that.
I can think of like an Ashari warlock background right now.
Look at that, boom, it's done.
Like maybe you're a fire Ashari, maybe you grew up in the city of Brass and then you stumbled upon the rift in the plane that split between our realm and theirs, and then you stumbled upon and then you ended up just becoming a part of the Ashari tribe and living amongst them because you appreciated their name. You were a warlock first. You could be a warlock Ashari, you could do it.
Yes, you can. Yeah, I got that. I got some new feats we can try out. Some fun things. Some new optional rules, like different resurrection rules. The one that we use in the campaign now. Some other optional resurrection rules I put in there. The corruption system that you saw a little bit of in Whitestone. That's in the book as well. It's like a pared down version of the Heroes of War book version. Yeah, it's got some fun stuff. So
He's
I'm
been
excited
like,
to try it.
he would like, does maybe 2-3 voiceover sessions a day, comes home, goes in his office, writes, wake up, do it again, and this has been for like 9 months?
It's been unhealthy.
9 months? Almost done though.
Almost done. And I can get back to the gym again. Thank you. That's a good question.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. I'm gonna go ahead and when a green person's pointing at you, you have to choose that hand. All right, sir, you with the beard. No.
You basically get like a green Big B's hand, being like, right here.
5th edition's not exactly great for combat as far as large groups of people going against small numbers of enemies.
Mm-hmm.
As a DM, what is a good way to kind of counteract that with a small group of enemies? And as a player, even what are some of the smaller groups of enemies that have given you guys more of a challenge?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, to counter that a bit, not all enemies have this, but the legendary action system, I think, does offset that tremendously. And if any creature you're worried about will be just steamrolled, as a singular or small scale opposition, you can add a series of legendary actions where you can. Usually they have 3 legendary actions per round that they can do, and you have different attacks that they can use at the end of somebody else's turn, which is pretty useful. Also, if you have a large party, you can customize some abilities or add abilities to certain creatures that can hit multiple characters as well. So have like sweep attacks that can hit things in the park, or attack as a cone as opposed to a singular target. So those are cool ways to customize and help out in that regard, and that just comes with experience and figuring it out as you go. But I find legendary actions helps a lot. And giving them more mobility, the ability, because when you have a lot of players in the field, it's hard for creatures to move around without taking a shit ton of attacks of opportunity. So you can give them a legendary action, they can spend 1 step, lets them move their speed without taking attacks of opportunity against them. And now they have a lot more battlefield mobility and can get to places that are advantageous to them without being smacked by 4 PCs as they go by. In fact, there's a GM Tips episode that kind of talks about that a bit too. But yeah, those are some of my most basic recommendations for that.
Also, if anyone's unaware, we have a little sideshow on Geek and Sundry called GM Tips, and you've done the first several.
We have 16 up, and I think I have 4 more coming up pretty soon.
And then we're going to switch to a different GM because you can only learn so much from one teacher, right, guys? And other people have different perspectives.
Exactly.
So yeah, we're going to switch it up soon. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, the GM Tips is really good for just anyone. A lot of good stuff. They're like 5-minute episodes.
Yeah, they're quick, they're bite-sized, they're general tips, and if you want more nuts and bolts, a good friend of ours, Matt Colville, has a number of great videos on YouTube on his channel where he gets into the real nitty-gritty of ways to build worlds and build encounters and theories and running games, as well as players. So highly recommend that.
Yeah, and Matt's a writer. He writes for video games. He works for Turtle Rock a lot. He wrote Evolve, like a lot of the dialogue and stuff for Evolve. So he's legit. He knows what he's talking about. He's a good source. From a player standpoint, to kind of answer your question, some of the stuff that started really blowing our minds was when the terrain started coming into place. There was the fight in the Underdark that we had, where if you stood in one place and didn't move on your turn, then the undead hands would reach up and start pulling you underground. And that was what started kind of really messing with us, was when there were environmental situations that started coming into play, because it doesn't always have to be a bad guy. And then there's Matt also, and you tend to do a lot of guys in waves, which is interesting, because you'll, especially as a player, because you'll be like, oh, these two bastards, all right, bam, 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 bam. Hey, we only took one hit, and three more are coming? Are you,
Yeah, not every battle has every single piece in the field at once. Sometimes things will surprise them midway through. Sometimes part of the initial conflict is actually a distraction for the actual ambush that's making its way from the opposite side. Think of ways that you can turn it on the player's head, where it's not just these chess pieces versus this chess pieces. You mix up the encounter structure to keep the players confused and make them feel threatened, even though it's not intended to be a full TPK. Or they could probably win this battle, but what if the enemies had higher ground and had the ability to pour hot oil onto them in the field? A couple goblins can be pretty nasty if they have that type of an advantage, so those are cool little ways to tweak it as well.
And what are I feel like it's always, there are bad things in tiny packages. Like, you notice it's always the tiny enemies that you underestimate. Like, what was that little brain dude, the little brain guys with legs that kept zapping Grog's intelligence? What were those called?
That was
Damn brains.
No, that was the mind.
They were like mind sucker things.
No, sorry, everyone said right at once. Brain Devourer, thank you.
Brain Devourer, yes.
Yeah, that was fun.
Man.
By the way,
guys.
D&D comes from a long-standing, wonderful bloodline and history of making things that are just shitty. Nothing you can do about it. Where you're like, oh, this guy has 6 damage. Oh, but I've missed my terrain throw. I'm dead. What? What? And Gygax somewhere in heaven's like, and Gygax is burning in hell for that. That. He's down there going, I made them all die in the Tomb of Horrors. Never the Gygax we love. But yeah, so there are ways of turning the battlefield pretty quickly based on simple, not really scary-looking creatures that have one really terrible ability like that.
Or doors.
Like that.
Or doors. Doors apparently will fuck up your party. I've discovered.
You're like, it's dumb.
And it's not that I make the doors hard.
I know.
I roll terribly every time.
It's kismet, because we've gotten lucky in several battles where we should have all died. So
what was it?
I'll take doors. I'll take that as an exchange.
There's something that mentioned about it. It was like Dordak the Cedar King. And I was like, oh, that would have been a much better enemy. Next time. Next question. You pick this one.
Let's do. Yeah, you also doing the Big B's hand to him. Yeah.
What is your favorite town/city that you've been to in D&D?
Cool, that's a great question. Favorite town/city? Ah, man. Any of the towns in the Feywild are always crazy and awesome.
I only went to one town in the Feywild.
Yeah, what was it called?
It was Singorn.
Singorn. But Singorn's not based in the Feywild.
No,
it's just
not.
the Feywild in general is
The Feywild has a location.
Feywild
Yeah.
is cool.
It's a fun place.
Yeah,
There was a
we're
big
Pixie
town.
Forest.
You didn't really visit that so much as you
Invaded it
Yeah.
and killed them all.
Yeah. Yep.
That moment when you realize that Vox Machina is just a fascist regime in the Feywild.
Like, oh, these poor werewolves. Gotta help them. See where the pixies were dicks.
They were being dicks.
They were. I'm not making a comment on which side was better than the other, but either choice would have looked kind of shitty regardless.
Yeah, that's true. City of Brass is awesome. Ankarel is what's incredible. But that's all you kind of use. That's not necessarily D&D. City of Brass is D&D.
City of Brass is D&D, yeah. Ankarel is that'll be in a book sometime in the future, maybe. If this one does well, then maybe we'll do other continents. So we still have Wildmount, Cecilia, and Marquette, all are their own kind of spaces.
What's your favorite city?
Oh man, I have a special place in my heart for for a couple reasons. Sigil. The city of doors. I like it. I mean, as a Planescape fan, I guess as a person who played Planescape Torment and loved the game, loved the whole setting. The idea that there is this one city, this weirdly kind of this Inception-like city that folds in itself in this kind of donut pattern that is a central nexus to all the planes and all the worlds that all dimensions connect to, and go there to do business and travel. But it's also guarded by this mysterious entity called Lady of Pain that nobody really fully understands where she came from, but apparently watches everything in the city, and if anyone does anything that goes against her rules of, playing it nice kind of in the streets, she'll show up silently and just murder you. And so it's a city where everyone from the Nine Hells, from the Abyss, from the Prime Material world, they all go there and they all hate each other, but they respectfully nod and do business because none of them want to see the Lady of Pain show up and kill them. And it's also called Sigil, which is where I learned to mispronounce the word. And this is the City of Doors, which has become funny because of you guys.
I kind of want to call my period this Lady of Pain that comes every month.
There you go.
Is visiting. Lady of Pain's in town. All right.
Next question.
You pick it.
Okay. I'm going to go way back, hiding by the pillar with your hand up at the fuzzy wrist and wearing an awesome t-shirt.
Yeah, how do you want to do this shirt? Sorry.
Out of all the NPCs and players? Even guess. Oh. I shouldn't have called on you. This is a loaded question. No, it's good. It's an interesting question. Marisha? Favorite, least favorite character, go.
Hang on. I'm sure I have one. Favorite, least favorite character. Like someone that's...
Oh, man.
There's gotta be...
I'm partial to Gilmore. He wasn't intended to be such a central NPC to the story. He was just a fun NPC that they would come across in Iman when they first visited. And I fleshed him out to be this fun showman personality. And they took a shine to him and kept coming back. And eventually he became this unexpectedly central character. Even kind of, had a temporary romance with one of the PCs. And followed them into the fiery bowels of a dragon's den. Like he's become just a really cool, wonderful character that I connect with immensely, and I'm happy to see that he survived. There were a couple times that I was like, he might not make it. Please make it. The internet will light me on fire. Least favorite, Will Wheaton only for his roles. I really wanted to see his character do well. I was like, yes, dwarf, finally we have a dwarf PC in the game. Oh, he's a fighter. Great, he's doing nothing. Nothing. Great. At least now we know that the curse is real.
It's uncanny.
That blew my fucking mind.
No, like we're not making that shit up, you guys.
Like, oh, it's scripted. Oh, and it's like,
no, I've never seen anything like that. He breaks math.
Yeah.
He breaks the laws of averages.
I'm pretty sure after that episode, like 4 or 5 mainstream string theory, theoretical physicists were in the room going, no! 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 It's ruined everything.
I spent my doctorate on this. Oh man, least favorite is so hard because even the people that you get frustrated with and that you don't like, it doesn't mean that they're not bad characters. Generally, everyone is so fleshed out and thorough, and
it's okay, you don't have to spare me.
No, I'm being serious. I mean, because I've had altercations with Kima, but she's probably one of my favorite characters. I mean, Raishan was like Keyleth's arch enemy, but also one of my favorite villains that we've had to date. Even though she was albeit frustrating, because you never knew what she would say, if she was true or not, and it was good. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I like things that break the meta narrative. I don't believe in that there is a 100% good versus evil type of metric system. That's why I love anti-heroes so much. And I love characters that break that formula. And I feel like most of our characters in the game do. Not everyone's great and not everyone's horrible either. And everyone has their motives. That's what's always important, is everyone has their motives. Some of my favorites, I mean, I'm becoming really partial to Laura, but I think it's because Keyleth is kind of starting to look to her as like a mentor. And
right,
kind
like
of
an example of
as an
leadership.
example of leadership and
That's
kind of who
interesting,
she
yeah.
wants to become. So yeah, Alora's just great. We've had some good moments. Me and Alora, yeah. Good times. Me and Ellie.
Only Kima gets to call her.
That's true. Sorry. Someone's like
question.
jamming down over there.
I know. Why you pick this one?
Only you can hear that.
The rest of the panel is us awkwardly dancing to nothing. Glad you waited a while.
If only I had a nickel. Let's do, you've been enthusiastic. Yeah, what's up?
I just really started, actually DMing with you guys.
Oh, hey, DM in the house? Yeah.
But, I find a problem for me is when I have a number of NPCs, is I really quickly lose, the word you use to get into a character's voice. And I realize that, you guys are actors and professional voice actors, so do you have any tricks for remembering, what an NPCs, or even, an area what their voice is supposed to be?
Yes, actually, almost all my NPCs, if they're not improvised in the moment, or even if they are, I'll take a note later. I write next to their name. I have their name in bold on whatever my note sheet is, and then in parentheses and italics next to them, I'll put a few notes about their voice, like low, gravelly, somewhat off-putting personality, close parentheses.
For example,
Ian Sinclair!
For example,
Oh my God!
After you did Black Butler Book of Circus, you had a bunch of people in a certain town who had the same dialect, yeah?
Yes, actually.
Oh, was that North Country?
No, West Country.
Oh, West Country.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Thank you, Ian Sinclair.
He's our own personal Kool-Aid man.
That was like the slowest, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
There it is. But yeah, so I'll take notes to remind me of that. I'll be like, high-pitched, reedy, this dialect, if there is one, or different personality traits. I'll put quick hand, so when it comes back, I can remind myself very quickly. Note cards help very well for that too.
What notes for Victor?
Oh, Victor was improvised.
What notes do we have now for him?
The notes I have now for, I don't need notes for Victor. There are certain NPCs that are so poignant in your mind that you don't, like Gilmore or those guys, I don't need to remember their notes necessarily. Victor quickly became one of those. It was hard to forget that, and the internet made sure that I would never forget that. So yeah, that's a huge tool for me. And if worse comes to worst, you could also, if you know the story is going in a certain place, you can also record those NPC voices at the end of a session, like a couple of short audio files on your phone, and then before the next session starts, you can do a quick kind of listen to remind yourself of the place you were at. So hopefully that helps. Awesome. Let's see here. I'm gonna go ahead and pick. Let's go in the. Oh, there's so many hands. You say you've been on the side here for a bit.
Oh, fair enough. If you guys were not playing D&D or Pathfinder, what game system would you guys want to play?
Ooh. Yeah, which by the way, we are playing D&D partially because it's what I grew up with, and it's kind of the mainstay because for a lot of these people, it was their first game. D&D I felt was the easiest entry point. If you tell a bunch of people like, hey guys, let's go play Traveler, they'll be like, I don't know what that is. But if you say Dungeons and Dragons, they get kind of an idea of at least what they're in for. So, but especially with 5th edition, I've come to really love the new edition. But if we weren't D&D or Pathfinder, oh man, I mean, I'd love to run like a Call of Cthulhu game.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Like a 1920s, like original era.
I want to go insane so bad.
That'd be fun. I love Deadlands as a setting too. You got me to the one shot for that, which was the Deadwood one shot, which was fun. I got to say all the things I never get to say on stream.
What's that one where you're basically like an anime character?
Oh, Exalted. Exalted would be fun too.
Exalted.
Exalted's crazy. When we say it's like an anime character, like the idea is you build a character who has a bunch of abilities that can all be made into a combo, and you get additional benefits for how crazy stupid the attack was. Like the crazier you describe it, the GM's like, all right, we'll get 2 bonus dice because that shit sounds nuts. That's Exalted. It's great. I love Exalted. Yeah, so probably Call of Cthulhu, Deadlands, or Exalted. The World of Darkness would be fun too. There's just so many good systems. It's hard to pick, and they're all their own different flavor. It depends on what mood you're in, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Let's do, yes, you with the Overwatch hat. Yeah, you. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Hi. Oh, you're like a samurai.
My first tabletop game ever was the pre-made campaign Castle Ravenloft.
Oh,
yeah. Castle Ravenloft.
Insanely paranoid players.
Good.
Yeah.
If you could pick one pre-made campaign that would start somebody off, which would you pick?
Oh man, I mean, I would say Curse of Strahd.
Strahd, by the way.
Oh yeah, no. Curse of Strahd's a great one. For anyone who wants a little bit of, gothic horror in their fantasy tropes, Curse of Strahd or the original Expedition to Ravenloft are amazing games. I love those. As far as other ones, I really like the political elements of Storm King's Thunder that came out last year. I felt that giants are an underutilized creature, that when you think of giants in a fantasy, especially a D&D setting, you don't get that depth of an idea of what their culture is or what their personality is. Just like, this is a big guy who has fire. This is a big guy who has ice. So it was really cool for them to kind of bring in the different cultures and how they intersect, and like the breaking of the ordning and the vying for the top position within that hierarchy of giant culture. So I thought it was a really, really cool setting. Chris Perkins and the team over there did an amazing job with it. So I think Storm King's Thunder is a really, really cool setting. It's a little more elaborate and political at times, so it's a good way to get you into that type of game if you haven't had that before. For gamers who are more of a kick down door, kill monsters, take loot, it might be not quite their speed. For that, you do maybe like the Mines of whatever the fuck it's called. Yeah, it's that one.
The Mines.
The Mines or whatever the fuck it's called. The official title.
No, Eberron's a popular fan favorite.
Eberron's a great setting.
Yeah.
Keith Baker did a great job with the Eberron setting. But I don't think there's any.
That's old school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have some stuff that are slowly like the new Artificer class. It's technically originated in the Eberron setting, though I know Keith Baker wasn't involved in the development of the new one. But yeah, those would be my recommendations.
Word.
All right, let's go ahead and let's. I have to pick Percy. Sorry.
Yeah.
You put a lot of effort into that.
Thank you. There's been a lot of really serious moments in the campaign so far, especially lately. for the both of you, what have been your favorite lighthearted moments?
Favorite lighthearted moments in the game?
Cows. I'll never forget that. So the day I die. I'll just be flying cows.
Yep. Not just flying cows, but masquerading as cows via seeming and then interrogating cows. And thinking cows would be useful to interrogate.
Yeah. And then using ourselves as cows, as living bait. And then chasing down somebody, still as cows. That was great. That was good time.
The weirdest unintentional ET parody ever. Just coasting over the moon. Oh my god. The cow comes over the moon, I get it now. Oh my god, it never ends. That was pretty great. Oh man. The fact that a party member would stop in the middle of traversing a Durgar stronghold in the Underdark to just take a shit on a bed. Every pub crawl you guys go on is great.
You could honestly lead this conversation with anything Sam does.
Yeah, kind of. It's brilliant. Once again, why I love bars. The fact that there are ways that you can kill enemies by mocking them to death is one of the best utility elements in any RPG ever. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I feel like good stuff always comes the spa. When we were in the spa in the mansion. And we did the cannonball contest. That was awesome.
Yep.
That was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I like when we use our enormous power and strength for petty competitions. Just great. Just great.
Just because you are the most powerful heroes in the land doesn't mean you can't still be just a bunch of dumb fucks.
Yeah. Just a bunch of kids.
Yeah. I love it. Awesome. Let's see. Let's go way over there.
Yeah.
Yes, you. By the wall.
As a DM, Matt, do you ever kind of wish that you could be a character and somebody else would be on for a while?
So the question was, as a DM, do I wish I could play once in a while and somebody else can DM? I mean, yeah, every now and then, but if I compare the experience of being a player and a DM, honestly, I enjoy the experience of running a game so thoroughly and being able to provide that experience for other people that I prefer DMing over playing, for me at least. But it is nice to occasionally get to play in something, and so with our campaign, it's a little difficult because it's an ongoing story, and it's not something I can really hand off since I kind of created the whole thing. But I know we've talked about coming up soon, like when we finish the current arcs and you guys kind of tie up some loose ends, you might take a short couple-week break from the main story and maybe have Liam running a game for us, in which case I can play. And I've had the opportunity to guest in a few other shows that do live play games, actual play games, like the role play guys. I've guested a few times on there. I guested for an Open Legend session over at Hyper RPG. So I've had the opportunity a few times to play.
And Colville DM'd for you not long ago.
That's true.
Yeah.
For us, we all
Yeah, from me, you, and Liam.
And Frida Wolf, the female lead voice in the new Mass Effect Andromeda. Who hadn't booked that at the time. We were happy to hear that she got that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it happens occasionally. And I do miss it, but if I had to pick, I prefer to GM than play, really. Which, by the way, let that be a point to you guys out there who are ever curious about GMing. Please do it. It's so much fun. It's a little bit more work on your point, and at first it can be a lot to wrap your head around, but once you get into it, there's nothing quite as fulfilling as creating an experience for other people and watching them enjoy it. It's like such an awesome gift, genuinely. And watch them die. That can happen too.
As I always say, it's your world. We're just playing in it.
But you guys also build the story in the world. Like that's the thing. People will say like I love what you create for the show. I'm like, I create a stage. Everyone else creates the narrative. You know, it's one of the wonderful things about D&D is it's such a collaboration. Each person brings such an amazing different type of story to the overall narrative. That every game that any of us have played in a role-playing game, it's everyone picking it together. So I'm just one part of that engine. And so are you. So appreciate your players and players appreciate your GMs, please. Good question.
Let's go in the back for the people who are far in the back. You the guy who's got like the devil horns up who I can't see really? Yeah, you. Hi.
get like internet famous, like having a come with me.
That's weird. Keep going.
They're actually on Snapchat right now. One of the like stories and always a free question. It's not yours. But my question though would be, I really want to try to make like, the cities that I built for my characters feel real for them and like have like texture like beyond just like this bar down the road. What is one of the things that you do that makes that work for your campaign?
It helps one to very quickly establish what makes that city unique against the other ones that they've already encountered.
The question was about giving the cities texture beyond
Yes.
the pub.
There we go. Thank you for reading. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So to make a city feel unique to your players. First, think about what makes it unique. What do you want the players to think about when they think of this city down the road? Is it a very, very like militaristic law? Everyone lives under kind of an iron fist and is, trying desperately to eke out what freedoms they can. Then you impose that by mentioning how well armored and how present the guards are, and how clean the streets are, and how everyone seems to be very eager to do their job and not, stray. Architecture helps too. If it's a very destitute location, you can talk about how the streets themselves are not well kept. It was once cobblestone, it's been broken and cracked and it's filled with mud. And, every cart seems to have a hard time making its way through the main thoroughfare. The sound of nearby insects, buzzing ever presently causes you to just feel unrest in the presence of the city. Finding, what I think also helps too is think of what the political structure is within that city. Is it a free republic? Is it an oligarchy and the people that rule the town are the business heads, and as such, the one good, beautiful looking district is the one that contains all the guilds and all the money, and the rest is kind of left to just flounder and barely exist? Is it a monarchy, or is it a committee that runs everything, and it seems to be kind of a free-spirited, socialist atmosphere, and what is befalling that type of a thing as well? Is there infighting within that cycle now that everyone's kind of equal? And thinking of that political structure can be an easy way to think how the rest of the town functions. Does everyone work collaboratively, or is everyone in competition with each other? And that can breed an atmosphere that the players can encounter very quickly when they enter. So you think of those notes when you build the city, and then as they enter it, you find what visually marks it separately, and the further they begin to talk to people, you think of what politically and socially makes it separate and different.
You do such a good job. We'll throw, I feel like we throw curveballs at you and you always have an answer. Like when we're like, what's the main underground market here? And you're always like, drugs. And we're like, how did you already knew that? You seem to always know the underbelly of the city as well.
That's a good thing to establish. Even if you haven't, when you've built the infrastructure of a city with all the things I mentioned before, the other elements that you hadn't thought of will be easy to rationally think up of on the spot. Because if it's a really, really clean, militaristic city, what is it, that type of atmosphere that people would be seeking more often than not? It might be illegal substances. It could be
weapons.
Weapons, things to defend themselves. Is there like a rebellion within the city that's trying to eventually overthrow the militaristic political structure? And if so, are they bringing that trade in? These are all things that kind of you can improvise once you have enough of the structure in place, and you just rationalize the next step. And the other key to being a DM is when you make shit up, act like you had it the entire time. Most of running a game is making shit up. Most of it is, but if you say it confidently and the players don't know, you're the only one who knows.
Like Victor.
Like Victor, I was like, oh yeah, totally had him designed. No. I'd say a good half of the NPCs you guys have talked to are all things that I just kind of pulled out of my ass because I didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah.
But if you say it with conviction, they won't know. That's pretty cool. But if you do that, write it down. Take notes. Because they'll call it back.
What about in when we went to Draconia? What was the lead Ravenite's name? What was her name?
Oh,
Tuma. Tuma. Was she made up?
I don't know.
Never mind. Did I say anything?
No, to answer your question, yes, she was.
Really?
Yeah. I wasn't expecting you guys to go there so soon, and I hadn't finished fleshing out the specifics of the current Ravenite structure that was kind of taking over. So I was focusing on the current path you guys were on. it's always a chase. It's always like trying to develop as much as I can ahead of them, but also have a life and a career, and eat, sleep, and breathe occasionally.
Yeah.
So there'll be a lot of cases where I think I know where the players are going, and I'll develop a lot of preparation in this direction, and then right as it's about to hit, they go this way. I'm like, oh, okay, let's see where this goes.
I will say, and this isn't really spoilery. I felt a little bad when we were like, let's go to the Earthashari this past episode. And I could immediately see you be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I had to go into my Google Drive.
Okay, you're gonna go over here? Okay, you guys do that for a second.
I had to go to the Cliffkeep Mountains portion of the campaign guide that I'd written to go look up Terra.
Yeah.
But that's how it works sometimes. It's a lot of it's improvisation and trying to play it off like you had it under control the entire time. All right, we'll start getting more of a lightning round mode here. Not full lightning round, but we got to try and get some fast answers so we can answer a lot more questions.
Sure.
We got a few out there.
Word.
All right, let's go with Scanlan in the back. I mean, I have to.
Scanlan, baby's hair.
As a player, what can a GM do to make a session more dynamic, more fun, just kind of build up the atmosphere for a player?
Easy tricks, music. Music to me always helps build atmosphere. It's so simple, and you can make playlists for different moods. Great resources are movie soundtracks. When you stream it online, you can only use music that you have approval for. But previously, it was like Conan the Barbarian soundtracks, Lord of the Rings soundtrack. All these great fantasy soundtracks that you know of. Use those. No reason not to. And set playlists based on if it's like a battle theme or a peaceful theme or if it's a tense theme. That's a really easy trick. Also, you as the GM, you guide the energy of the room. So if you're kind of lulling, the players will lull too. So you kind of have to put a little extra energy into it and make sure that as you're talking, you're engaging, you're looking players in the face. You can look at notes, but make sure that if you have notes in front of you, you take enough time to look up and still engage. Because if you're down here the whole time describing the dungeon room they went into, everyone's just going to start checking their texts. So eye contact makes a big difference, surprisingly. Keeping them fed. Food's a big deal. I mean, you always think the classic idea of like, oh, eating Cheetos and drinking Mountain Dew. It's like, no, that shit worked. For a reason.
We used to do, like, back before we streamed, we would pull like 12-hour D&D days, and we would get together like around 10 a.m. and we would always start with like a nice brunch and mimosas. So great.
It's pretty rad. Mimosa D&D is great. I recommend it.
Bagels and like some yogurt, smoked salmon, and mimosas, and then you play D&D all day.
And if you have players that have a hard time engaging or like paying attention, if they themselves are doing so almost out of spite, or you just want them to pay attention more, you can always watch them as they begin to wander and have something really bad happen to their character. Like as Jiraiya began to nod off in the side of the corner, he didn't realize his purse strings seemed to have been snipped and his coins are all missing. Oops, maybe you should be paying attention, buddy. That also gets their attention.
Yeah, let's do, you in red dress. Yeah, you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, hi.
Hi.
Thank you for coming to a place that is not on the coast. We appreciate it.
It's on a lake.
We live here. Anyway. Oh boy, I had two questions to decide between. Has real life events like in the world ever affected the campaign and how you set it up, and if so, like what?
That is a great question.
Has real world events changed the way we've made the game?
I'd say yes.
I mean, each one of us as players have things that happen in our lives that affect how we play our characters, and if any of us go through a period of dark reality in our own world, it's hard to not let that bleed a little into our characters. So that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think when you're playing a character, we're in these characters for generally not 3, more like 4 hours a week. It's hard to not let a little bit of that real world influence bleed occasionally.
Which can also be kind of therapeutic too. Your frustrations can kind of be worked through in this safe space as well. As far as the overarching build of the campaign, I mean, any of the bad stuff that's happening in the world at large around us has happened before for hundreds and thousands of years of human civilization's history and different facets. So all the great stories, all the great conflicts are all inspired largely by things that are happening or have happened before. So I can't say that, you know, things aren't influenced by it, but not directly. I'm not trying to make a statement with any of the stories. I prefer to make those statements directly on social media, because I do have my own opinions and beliefs, and I wish to inspire people to stand up for those as well, regardless of which side of which spectrum you stand on. I firmly believe that we have, with the attention we have on us, we have a responsibility as figures in a space to at least try and inspire other people to be good people, whatever that means to you. But I don't build our story to be any sort of political agenda by any means. But I'm sure there's influence regardless, because all good stories take influence from the world around you.
I mean, yeah, that's probably on like a DM stand, but I'm sure as like a player, I know my therapist actually is fascinated with the game and the way that sometimes the game will mirror our real lives unintentionally. For example, my therapist here recently has been very fascinated in the idea. I've kind of slowly taken on more leadership positions at Geek and Sundry, and she's fascinated that Keyleth is slowly coming into herself as a leader as she's completing her Armente. So my therapist is like, holy shit. This is like tell me more about your D&D game. She's like, I'm a psych major. This is insane. And I'm like, I know. And I mean, I don't think it's like any secret that, Liam had a really dark time last year with his mom and problems in his family with her being sick. And yeah, I mean, I think there was definitely a stage that could be worked out on. It's hard to not let those dark thoughts bleed sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but it's never intentional. If anyone hasn't seen the IT Crowd, by the way, I noticed your shirt earlier. There's like an amazing episode of the IT Crowd where they play D&D. And Roy has just gone through a breakup and he's working out that his girlfriend that he recently broke up with didn't really say goodbye. It was kind of left without closure, and so he gets that closure in the game. And there are two great episodes, I feel, in modern sitcom history that do a good job at showing what D&D is succinctly, and that's the Community episode of D&D and the IT Crowd episode of D&D. And I think they show them differently for both ways. The IT Crowd version shows that therapeutic element. It's also why I'm a massive believer in D&D being used in elementary schools, in middle schools, in kids who might have social issues, and kids who might be more on the spectrum and be leaning towards autism, because it gives them a stage and an acceptable, closed, basically mock reality kind of situation where they can try their social techniques and new social dynamics without real world consequences. And I think that speaks volumes. And I've talked to a lot of, one of the amazing things, kind of harkening back to a way earlier question about one of the benefits of bringing the show onto the internet, is I've talked to so many educators and teachers and librarians who are now bringing D&D and D&D clubs into the schools, and for kids who might have more social problems. And the stories that come back are breathtaking and so awe-inspiring, of these kids really finding themselves and just practicing without judgment from the real world. And that's why I love D&D for that reason. It's great.
I like to kill dragons. All right, let's see if we can cruise through some of these questions here.
So, as a DM, how do you prevent people from metagaming, and as a player, how do you stop yourself from metagaming?
Good question. As a GM, how do you keep people from metagaming? As a player, how do you stop yourself from metagaming? As a GM, remind them that they're metagaming and not to do it. I mean, if it begins to happen, he's just like, you don't know that, or like you actually don't have that information, so you can't use that in the circumstance. Sometimes, to play to the second question, players don't
Like not
realize they are.
intentional. Yeah, it's not intentional.
It's usually not intentional. There are some people that might push the boundary, and if you do, then you can implement punishments for metagaming. But you talk to them first. Just let them know in the moment. Be like, yeah, technically you don't know that, or like you're not there, or that's information that you would not be aware of. And as a player, if you're the player getting this, you're like, oh, you're right. Never mind. Just accept it, because that's part of the structure of the narrative, and that's part of what makes the challenges interesting in the game. Is player knowledge different? Is the character knowledge and player knowledge being totally different things? Travis is a great example. Travis knows a lot more of what's going on, but he doesn't act on it because dumb in the game. That's great. So yeah, that's my recommendation. Is just catch it when it happens and politely notify. And if they keep pushing the volume or pushing the envelope on that, then maybe their character suddenly has a stroke and has to lie on the ground for a while. You know?
Yeah, I mean, the same thing, kind of just that, and it takes practice, I think, getting through that boundary of like, nope, Keyleth doesn't know that, I don't know that, Keyleth doesn't know that. And it takes practice, and it's the same reason why I think every single one of us at one point in time over the 85 episodes we've been streaming have gone, I say that, no, I'm not there. Shit, sorry. And it's never intentional, and I hope everyone understands that. Just as much as like everyone else can get caught up in the story, so can we. And it's so easy to be like, shit, I'm at the pub. I'm not even there. Never mind.
Yeah. You always see conversations online after certain episodes, people mentioning like, so-and-so totally metagame that in the game. It really pisses me off that this player metagames so much. I'm like, no, they don't. And if they did, so what?
I will say it's weird the way the word metagaming has become so vilified since we've started. Like, there for a while, you thought the M word was almost as bad as the G word, and it's like, holy shit, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were taking this personally. I think just to know that. And if you probably look inward at yourself, you've probably done it too in your game by accident. But yeah, I just say try to be cool.
Just be aware of it.
Be aware of it.
Correct it when it happens.
Yeah.
Ooh, all right, next question. Let's make these rapid fire. So we'll make these like quick 1-sentence answers here. We'll grab a bunch. All right. There's 7 fingers pointing at this gentleman. All right, fine.
In terms of story hooks, a lot of people advise against railroading, but on the other end of the spectrum, sometimes you need a little guidance in your campaign. What's a easy way as a DM and a player to kind of find that middle ground where people are interested but still feeling
Right. So railroading versus giving open world. The trick is when you create a story, instead of making a single line that gets you there, make bullet points. So it'd be like, going to this location, talking to this NPC, discovering this clue, reading this note, finding this item, final, story beat. That way you can plug those bullet points wherever they need to be. So you can still let them explore, but don't feel like you're locked in that they have to find this clue at this house. If they end up wandering too far this direction, have them find the clue at that house. Still leads them to the same point, but it gives the players the agency to discover and still wander and guide their own story. And it may go off the rails for a bit, but if you don't want them to completely wander off and just disappear forever, you can find ways to get them back by still letting them be the ones that discovered it. So just make certain elements of your story hook or your story plot line flexible and able to plug in different places so that they still guide where it goes. That's my biggest recommendation.
Let's do you, since we're not sure which of the fingers we're all pointing. Yeah.
What caused you to really start creating Exandria? And then how long did you work on it before you felt comfortable actually having a game inside of it?
What caused him to start creating Exandria, and when did he feel comfortable revealing it?
Starting Exandria happened when we finished our one shot, and everyone went, let's play again. And I went, oh, okay, I guess I should make more. So I only made Stillben, I only made the single town. And so that was kind of where it started, and it wasn't Exandria, then it was just Stillben, and then Western, and then I guess I should call this place something. I'll call Tal'Dorei, that sounds fun. Okay, I should make a capital city for Tal'Dorei, I'll make them on. So as we kept playing, and the further they went into the continent, I began to build places based on where I thought the story would go next. And so it was this kind of slow connect the dots over the years. And then as it progressed, I just kept building parts to it, and then eventually we had a show, and I was like, oh shit, I have to make this seem like it has cohesiveness. I should build more so I'm prepared, so the internet doesn't kill me. And so I began to expand from there, and then I had the name Exandria before we started streaming, but then I began to mention, people were like, oh, I love the world, I'd love to play in it someday. And I'm like, oh, that'd be cool, I guess. And then Green Mountain was like, hey Matt, let's make a book. And I'm like, what? Sure, that sounds like fun. Oh God, I have to make all of it. And so when I became comfortable releasing it, we'll see at Gen Con. We'll see. We'll see if everyone doesn't buy the book and be like, this is cool, or like, this is the worst. And I'll be like, I'm sorry, I tried. I hope that's not that case, but it's also my first book, so we'll see. I hope it's good.
Let's do you and the plaid. There, right? Yeah.
So this is kind of directed at Matt, but
yes.
I find that balancing, as a DM, balancing not only the difficulty of encounters, but classes within each other is really based on that 4 to 6 encounters per day thing. And thematically and story-wise, a lot of the time that seems like I'm just being a dick and being like, you can't sleep because I want it to be balanced. So how do you, I noticed that you don't do that a lot, and often you have much fewer encounters for a long rest, and I was curious how you balance not only the difficulty of the encounters, but the classes among each other.
Right. In that case. I think a lot of that depends on party size too. The game is generally geared for about 4 players.
Yeah.
We have more than that.
I know.
And we have 7 players, sometimes 8 with a guest. And so what that does is it slows combat down. And combat can become more of a slog if you're throwing encounters just for the sake of having encounters. So for me, I tend to side more on having fewer, more interesting battles than having a large series of quick encounters, which aren't quick even if you try to make it quick with that many players. And also depends on the kind of play style you want. If people like the idea of being kind of more of a, I want to beat shit up and take things, I want to use my class abilities in combat and be, a war hero, then that can work out really well for you to do a series of rapid encounters and, different unique ways of that type of storytelling. For us, at least, I prefer to do more of a lean to set piece battles and, and certain small encounters that can lead up to it, especially if it's like a dungeon crawl or like for Iman in the recent episodes, they bypassed a bunch of encounters that I had prepared. But also, I don't want to, take away from the players for being clever and bypassing circumstances and force them in an encounter just because I made it. You're gonna fight it. I think it's a lot of fun. So for me, the balance depends on the players, what they're interested in. If you feel like you're throwing in like 3 or 4 arbitrary battles and the players are like, oh look, another orc ambush, then maybe you don't need to do that as much. You're not behooven to the balance of the system because you can tweak the system and be whatever you want it to be. And I've tweaked a lot in our game to make it interesting from what our play style is. It's just a baseline. All the rules are guidelines for people that walk into it and need something to work off of. The more you play, the more experience you have, you can then take those guidelines and tweak and move them to better fit something that is more fun for you and your players.
I think don't you have an episode of GM Tips that's about making encounters more difficult without just giving them more hit points?
Yeah, I spoke about that a little bit too, and I may talk more on that in the future.
Okay.
But yeah, just the idea of not every creature has to be so powerful that it just has more hit points and it takes longer. You can just increase their damage. You want to make a battle go a lot faster but still feel dangerous? Have an enemy that usually does 12 points of damage do 24 on a hit.
Yeah. And once again, kind of like what we were saying earlier, like, an enemy that does 12 hit points, that sucks. It sucks way more if there's pools of lava that are lapping up next to us and we might get hit into the lava at any point by this guy.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
Layer actions are not exclusive to creatures too. A layer action could be just a terrain action if you want to. If you have a battlefield that has some sort of dangerous element to it, if it has a roaring lava path, or there's a possible landslide. It's very, very sensitive rocky terrain that can collapse any time. You can have a counter where if a player does a certain trigger, oops, the battlefield is partially eroding beneath you.
Like Vax dimension dooring with this cloak and then pulling a lever, which kind of almost led us all to our doom. He still feels bad about that.
That was awesome.
I'm gonna save you guys! Acid starts filling up in there. Thanks, Vax! Thanks, buddy!
I was like, it's gonna be a great villain exit moment where he hits the button and nope, the friend's gonna do it for him.
I will once again.
That's so much more delicious.
Kind of like face planting in lava. Nothing's worse than being like, I'm coming to save you, like nothing's worse than that.
It was beautiful.
I wanna be a hero. Yeah, good times.
But what a gracious way to die.
Sure.
I think we got time for maybe one more question.
And we're signing from like 7:30 to 9:30?
7:30 to 9:30.
7:30 to 9:30 we're signing tonight.
Yeah, we can go a little bit over. I just have to pee at some point soon. But yeah.
So we'll do a couple.
We'll do a couple more. Oh, there's Bailey at 7.
and
Okay, we'll do a couple more questions.
6:40. Couple more questions. We'll be out.
Couple more questions. Yes, you with the curly hair. Yeah.
So, as a DM, I have had situations where I have like this big badass guy that they're going to fight, and then they just completely destroy us. Just completely steamroll it. So I was wondering if there was any situation as a player where you did that, completely steamroll somebody else would be badass, and as a GM, how can you stop that?
As a player, that has definitely happened.
So awesome. Every time. I remember, one of the things, and I feel like people forget about it a lot, but we totally avoided an entire encounter when we were going onto the fire plane, and then I turned into a fire elemental and used my language to be like, I'm bigger and better than you, go back to where you came from, and they were like, yeah, okay, and then we walked away. We avoided an entire encounter with a bunch of fire elementals by doing that. That was dope.
That was pretty rad. And as far as like players that, I've done it in previous campaigns, and there is something delightful about the palpable frustration in the GM's face. Comparatively, if you've built a lot to it, you want the villain to really make an impact. Consider an intelligent villain will have an escape path. Not every battle has to be fought to the bitter end, and a smart enemy knows if they're losing to run and come back later much more prepared. So consider ways to escape.
Unless they're feeble-minded.
Unless they're
Never thought that would work for a million.
Me neither.
Never thought it would work.
But that's a perfect example of also, you don't want to rob the players of a good, clever victory too. So if your players do really well and surprise you and steamroll a powerful guy, good on them. And let them know, like, wow, you guys really stepped up. And learn from that adventure, and the next villain they fight is going to destroy them. But think of escape mechanisms. Think of especially if it's a home turf advantage for the villain. What can they have established or built or prepared in that home turf to better their advantage in the combat? What happens if all of a sudden they have a way of closing off half the party, where now they're only fighting half of the adventures and others are locked away fighting some other creature that's in this chamber they got teleported towards, and they can't go and help until they defeat what that thing is? That's horrifying for a party, especially when they've built up their dynamic as players to work well as a cohesive unit, and you divide the unit. That's so scary and awesome as a GM. So just think of those clever villains, what they can use to their advantage, and how can they escape if things go poorly. And if they manage to escape, what are they going to bring back next time to make sure that it goes in their favor? And sometimes it doesn't happen. The dice ultimately run the game, and you have to kind of accept that,
Ripley.
Ripley's a perfect example of a really smart villain that knew exactly what to set up, and it worked out great, and almost killed the entire party, and it was awesome. I was very happy with that.
Ran, he fell for every bait.
You did.
Every bait.
Every single
every
step.
Single one.
I couldn't hide my smile. It's like, oh, it's gonna be
Following Percy. Following Percy.
I know.
Alright, let's do, you with the peach phone that you're holding up. Yeah.
Alright, so my boyfriend's at home sick with the flu. He really wished he would be here.
Everyone's sick, man. It's going around.
The question he has is, how does everyone in your game
have bonus actions, and if it's homebrew, how do you make that up for the classes that don't have bonus actions?
Generally, if you have something in your class that can use a bonus action, that's how you get to it. It's not like everybody has a bonus action, but certain things can utilize that. We have a couple of homebrew things. One, we homebrewed it that potions can be used as a bonus action as opposed to an action, because nothing's worse when you have a large party and you have to wait 6 or 7 player turns and enemy turns to get to your turn and be like, all right, cool, I drink a potion. That's it. We've waited 30 minutes and that's all you do. That sucks. So I decided as an option, which is actually one of the things I mentioned in the campaign guide, it's one of the optional rules, adjusting some things to make combat go faster or have players feel like they can do more with their turn if you're running a faster game or a larger party. And I also just noticed there's Dr. Ninja behind you, and that's awesome. Well done. But yeah, so that's one. Also, and I toyed with it a bit, being able to cast
Second level spells.
Second level spells as well as any other type of spell in the same round. Usually, as the rules are written, you can only cast one first level spell or higher per round, and a cantrip. So if you were to, like there's a meta magic ability that sorcerers have where you can spend sorcerer points to make a quicken spell, where you can cast a spell that usually takes an action as a bonus action. You can cast 2 spells in 1 round, but you're still limited. One of them has to be a cantrip, one of them can be any other type of spell. Well, when you have a lot of players as well, that can be a little frustrating for the same reasons that the potion is difficult. So I made it so that, just to try it out, you can cast 2 spells in the same round as long as one of them is second level or lower. So that does enable more bonus actions that would normally be there. So we do have some homebrew elements that we do put into the game, partially because I wanted to try them out and see how it worked, and the system was new to us, and also because we wanted to keep combat more useful and the players feel like they're doing more with their actual rounds than they normally do.
Yeah, technically, every time I do a grasping vine, I should only be able to do a cantrip, but that would be lame. So we do grasping vine, and I can do a second level or lower.
Yeah. That's actually one of the feats in the book I put in there. It's one of the optional feats, so that if you want to make it like a baseline rule in your game,
you can make it a feat.
You can have somebody actually takes the feat, and it allows them to do that. And it has a prerequisite as part of it where you have to be a certain level, so you aren't taking the feat at first level and breaking the game at the lower level. So yeah, like I found ways to kind of implement it and balance for people that want to incorporate
We're
that.
like at level 17 now, most of us, like 16,
You're
17.
16, almost on 17.
16, yeah, so
16 going on
17. Yeah, so we're pretty beefy. We're pretty beefy. I know that's another thing that's kind of ended up happening, but like when we started the stream, we were level like 7, level 8, but now there's been a decent amount of new people who have come in and been like, Jesus Christ, they're fighting pit fiends and how can they do, and it's, yeah, we're pretty beefy at that point, but yeah.
Hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So unfortunately, there's panel at 7.
Yeah, we gotta clear the room for the next panel, guys.
This has been good though.